Hey folks, good afternoon and welcome. Actually, good morning, afternoon. It's different for everybody. Welcome to part 2 on how the eye works. And I know this is kind of a squeamish subject for everybody. Not really everybody loves to talk about the eyeball, but you know what? It's kind of fascinating. And if you really gotta give it a chance, it's actually pretty darn great. So in part 1, we talked about 3 different parts of the eye, and we're kind of starting towards the front and we're moving towards the back. Okay, so in part 1, I know it says yesterday's, but part 1, we talked about the pupil, which is that hole in the eye. I said use hole in quotation marks. Iris is the colored part of your eye, and that is like a muscle that expands or contracts to let different amounts of light in, right? And then if it's really bright out, it shrinks, and if it's really dark out, it gets larger. And the reason why I said a hole in your eye, quote unquote, is because of the cornea. It's a thin, transparent shield that protects the eye and makes it nothing can fall into there, right? So cornea, so you have a piece of paper. You should have the diagram from part 1 still in front of you, right? And we filled in parts 1, 2, and 3, and we will be filling in some other parts as well. We might not fill in everything, we'll see, but we'll fill in some other parts right now. So we don't see things, boys and girls. We see light bouncing off of things and into our eye. So light travels in a straight line, okay? That's one thing you need to know about light. It travels in a straight line, and it goes right into our eye. Now, you might notice something a little bit unusual about this picture. I'm not going to say what it is, but you might think something might sort of look, wait a minute, why is that? Well, we'll talk about that at another time, but it's one of the most, I don't want to tease it, but it's one of the most fascinating things about vision is being demonstrated in this picture. Maybe I'll tell you later. So behind your pupil, and this would be number 4 on your diagram, it's the lens, okay? And the lens is also, what your eye does automatically is pretty amazing because your iris will expand or contract depending on the light. But the lens will also change shape automatically depending upon whether you're looking at something close or far away. If you look at something far away, you look at the top picture there, your lens will flatten out. And if you're looking at something close, it'll squish automatically. It's like the focus of a camera, but it does it automatically whether you want it to or not. So when you switch back from looking to close to far away, the lens changes shape and it is behind the iris. Okay, so the light enters through the pupil. All right, the iris is the one that makes the amount of light that comes in through, and then 4 kind of looks like, I don't know, like a little football, right? And that's what it is. So on your paper right now, for number 4, please pause this and put the word lens. Has a job of completely focusing the image. Yes, it does. Okay, so let's go through the steps, right? First is the cornea. That's the clear shield, right? It protects. Then the light goes through the pupil. It's like a hole, and the iris makes it large or small. And then it goes through the lens to focus, right? Whether you're looking at something close or far away. Then it hits the back of the eye. Friends, the back of the eye is where the image is actually formed, okay? When you look at something, the image is not formed at the front of your eye. It's formed in the back of your eye, and that is called the retina, okay? Now let's blow your mind with something that's one of the coolest facts about this. When you look at anything, what you're looking at right now, you're looking at your computer, look at the screen. When it first hits the back of the eye, what you see is upside down. I am not joking when I say this. The entire world, according to the back of your eye, is upside down. It has to do with the way that light passes through. When it hits your brain, that image is transmitted to your brain, and we'll talk about how next. Your brain flips the image right side up. So, thank you, brain, because if it wasn't for that certain section of the brain, everything we would see would be upside down. Okay? And that is wild. That is absolutely the wildest fact about the eye that I learned, is that everything we see upside down in the back of the eye, and then it travels to the brain, and the brain, flips it. So the retina is number 5 on the diagram. So please pause this. You have it spelled right there on your screen, and the word retina. Okay, now the retina is, so there's a bunch of, we can get more complicated as to what is back there that will actually, makes the images come through, but we could talk about that at another time. Like, how does it form an image? What's back there? We could talk about rods and cones for color. Okay, but there's a lot to it. So yeah. So now let's talk about how the image travels to your brain. Your eyeball has a little cord on the back of it that attaches it to your brain. Isn't that weird to think about? Your eyeball has a cord that's connected to your brain. If you play video games, okay, you have a deck for the video games that usually, even if it's a Switch, you could put and that deck of the video game is connected to the television by an HDMI cord, right? Some kind of cord needs to send the signal from the video game system to your television. That's what your optic nerve is. It's a cord at the back of your eyeball that sends the signals to your brain. It's the HDMI cable in your head. It doesn't really look like an HDMI cable, but that's what it is. That's what it does. And if it wasn't for the retina, the images wouldn't be able to get from the back of your eye to the brain to figure out what it is you're actually seeing. Isn't that wild? And that is number 7 on your diagram. So please make sure that you pause it and you write that. Number 7 is absolutely. Now, you might notice that there's certain ones that we didn't fill in for the diagram, and that's okay. If there's numbers that we didn't fill in, you may respectfully place an X over it. Don't scribble it out like a madman. All right, that's not respectful. You can just gently X. I think it was number 6 maybe, and maybe, am I correct? I don't know which one. But one of them I know we didn't do. So whatever one we didn't do, then just don't do that. So, hey, let's review. Hey, you're looking at a leaf. All right, the light from the leaf goes into your eye. Remember, we don't see things, we see the light bouncing off of things. The light bounces off of the leaf. It goes through your cornea, the shield. It passes through your pupil, which is controlled in shape by the iris. That light passes through the lens, which will focus that light to say whether it's close or far away. In the back of your brain, it says, hey, it's an upside down leaf. And that image forms in the back, right? It forms in the back in your retina. And then the optic nerve is the HDMI cable that transmits those signals to your brain so the brain can flip it back up again. Quiz time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, really, there's no sense in me giving you a quiz because, like, hey, you got all the answers in front of you. So I'd probably do this more if it was like live in front of you, and I'd be like, what's number 1? What's number 2? Okay, but you have all the answers in front of you. So, again, it is an amazing thing, the human body, my friends, and what things are done automatically for you. Don't forget to ask me the next time you see me about tears and crying, because that is another fascinating thing. There are different types of tears. Not all tears when you cry are the same. Mr. Brown, you're blowing my mind today. I know. Different tears for different reasons are made up of different things. Oh my gosh, you are blowing my mind, Mr. Brown. But it's true. And I'll talk about that more when you see. So don't forget to ask me about it. Hey, Mr. Brown, you said something about crying. And I'll say, I wasn't crying. I say, no, about tears. Oh, okay. So, folks, have an absolutely wonderfully fantastic day. And that is part 2 of Parts of the Eye. Bye-bye.